Hey guys, this is JSer. How's everything going? In this video, I'm going to try to implement something as a middleware. This is the problem. We need to create a middleware, and this middleware have two methods. One is a use, which will accepts a function as a middleware, and this middleware will be triggered with a next call, actually, which is the next middleware. And yeah, we have used these two middlewares, and the last one we have a go method, and this will trigger all the middlewares, and the last one we call cool. So how should we do it? Well, but first we need to keep track of all the middlewares, right? So for the middleware class, we should have a middlewares as empty array, and then for use method, which is very simple, we just push the middleware into our list, right? And it's done. The problem would be how we handle the go method, right? Well, let's take a look at how we should handle go. We have a list of functions, and then we need to trigger them one by one, and the next one actually will be triggered by the previous one, because the previous one have the next call, which is actually linking to the next one, right? So we need to change the functions up by this next keyword. So the behavior of triggering one method is actually should be called recursively, right? We try to trigger the first one, and we call it, and then the next actually should be the behavior of triggering the next one. So I'll say it should be like connects a function, right? When this is called the next function, what do we do? It will just pick up the next middleware, and then call it and pass in a function of connects itself, right? So it should be something like get the next middleware, trigger it with itself. When we pass itself the call next to it, we need to update the next middleware, right? So let's just keep track, we just keep track of which middleware it is. So let's say next middleware. Let next middleware. It should be what? This middleware 0, right? Cool. Now this is the next middleware. Actually, when we call it, we just call. First we update it. So cost next equals next middleware. Next middleware should be. Next middleware should be next one. I cannot get the next one from the middleware itself. Let's use index. It's index equals 0. So next should be this middleware's index. And when we call it, we need to update index to the next one, right? Cool. So now we could trigger it, which is next. As here we're required to pass the same context here. So let's create a new context, which just use an empty object. Now every middleware will be called against this context, so we use call. The go actually there will be no parameters. The call next, right? If there's parameters, if there is parameters, let's just accept the parameters. Like next, we may pass 1, 2, 3 or something. Okay, we get the parameters. We get the function. We call, which is the context. We call the context, and then the args. Oh no, I made a mistake. The function should be next as the parameter. So okay, we will passing a function which is okay. This should say this is the middleware. Next middleware call with context. And we need the next one. Next, accept some arguments. And this should actually be call next. No, there's a problem. Let's forget about the arguments here, because the next actually here is no argument. I'll take a look at it later. We call this middleware, which is this one, but we need to pass in a next function, which should be what? Should be call next itself, actually. Yeah, so this is it. And there's a problem when the last middleware is executed, there will be no next middleware, right? So we add a check here, like if index is smaller, is valid, is not overflowed. We do this. Just okay. If not, we call the function, right? Cool. So we function call context. Yeah. So what we do? We call next. And you see, when a go is called, the first one is called, the second one is called, a third is called, and we got those two true, and about. And yeah, this is it. This is how we implement it. And actually, this is something like a callback, right? We just use a recursion to call it over and over again. So it though this looks clear here, maybe you could rewrite it into a promise or something, right? So let's try to rewrite it into with a promise. Yeah, the promise is a promise the resolved value, the fulfilled value will be the context. And so for the first middleware, we will wrap it into a promise. When it is resolved, the next function will be triggered. Then, because we then it, and it will call, and it will return a new with the same context. And at last, and we can call it last callback, right? So it's pretty straightforward. So how should we do it? Well, context is this. I'll remove it. The call idea is we use promise to chain the middleware together. So what do? We just chain them. Chain them. So we chained. Pools. We have this middleware. We'll chain them. So we use reduce, merge them together or something. And this is the addendable. I'll say it's addendable. And this is the middleware, right? And this is to do. And for the start, we do what? We just, as we said, we pass in the new context. Resolve context. Cool. So for the reduce, we need to return the new promise, which is chained to the previous addendable. So what we do, we will return addendable then, right? and this is the context actually. No, so when this is called, it means the previous middleware is executed in this then function. So what we do here, we will call the middleware, and with the with the next function pass in, and next function actually will be just a resolve function, right? So here we return a new promise and resolve. When we resolve, we call the middleware, call the context, and then this is the next function. We will actually use the resolve, right? So we say resolve. We need to pass the same context. So the context. Yeah, and that's it. And so we changed all the middlewares. Now the last one is the go, right? The callback pass to go. So we changed. Then we have this context, right? And we could call function call context. Yeah, you see the first, second, third, true, 55. It's the same. Actually, the result is same. So I think this is a more like more advanced, and if we are used to it, we're already used to it. It might be looks more concise, and this yeah, this is it, and this is the original solution. It's not bad. It's not bad, but actually the index thing, the recursion thing, is not that easy to understand, right? Promise is best for this case, which improved the callback hell. So let's go back to the first question, is about the parameters. When we are calling the first middleware, we get the next, and we need to pass in the parameters, right? But for the second, when the second middleware is called, we get the next as the first parameter, which is not good. Let's just do something here. We log the args, and to see if we can get it, right? Now nothing is there, so of course, how can we modify it? Well, when we call the function, actually the call next is the next. The parameter is passed to call next. Arg. The call next function, next args should be 1, 2, 3. Should be passed to the next. Should be passed to the call. This is call next, and the arg should be here. Yeah, cool, and it's done. And here also args, right? Let's see if 4, 5, and this is the args. Yeah, cool, and that's it. We call the call next. We'll pass down the arguments to the real call of the middlewares. So we can say here, second called with arguments passed from the first call here, 1, 2, 3. Second called with 1, 2, 3, and the final called with 4, 5. So how we can improve in how can we achieve this with the promise? Well, this seems a little tricky. We need to not only keep track of the these, but also the arguments, right? So we need to say context, something this, and args. Well, empty, right? And then thenable, we get the context, and we get the arguments. We now return promise. We call the context. This is the next. And what we do, we pass down the arguments, right? And this actually is the call from, this is the call of next. So the arguments passed down here should actually, we need to pass down to the next call. Actually, so context is here, but args. A call. Wait a minute. Dot dot dot. Yeah, and the here chain called. Okay. We need update it. Args. So context args. Yeah, we have finished. So we can actually achieve the same with the promise, but it's a little more complicated than the no arguments version. But the core thing doesn't change. If we need to pass down the arguments, we just need to put it as the fulfilled value in the promise, which is we need for the next function call. You see here, middleware call the context, and the arguments will be received from the resolved value. By here, by promise, we pass down the data through the resolve, the fulfilled value. And if you're using the callback, what we do here, yeah, we just call it, right? Because it would be directly triggered by the middleware itself. There's no such thing as passing around. Cool. And yeah, that's it. It's actually a very interesting topic, I think. Hope it helps. Yeah, that's all. See you next time. Bye bye.